I know I don't need this, but call to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. John Jones, here. Kate Smith, here. Robert Smith, here.
Here.
Dennis, here. Bridget is absent, right? But excused.
Yes.
Kathy, is she absent and excused? Oh, Kathy's here. Yeah, Kathy's here. Cop check.
I didn't see you.
Sharon Parkala, is she absent but excused?
I haven't heard from her, so she may be here later.
Okay. Jen McConnell? Absent and excused?
I don't.
Or you haven't heard
I
from?
haven't heard.
Okay, hang on. And Rob Jones, here. Good. Approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda.
And I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Approval of the minutes, we're just going to leave that one there. We're going to add that we're going to approve the minutes for April and May and June. Presentations, we have Radcliffe Community Update, Erica Smith. Erica, you're on.
Thank you. I think if the screen will pop up the presentation. Hopefully we're all set. Okay. All right, so I wanted to take a few minutes and provide an update. I know if you saw the last council meeting, there's a lot of interest in what's happening with our committee, so I don't want to assume everybody knows. So next slide. As a reminder, this is a committee, it's a subcommittee of the Parks and Rec Commission, and it's made up of myself, a contractor, Kelly Williams, 3 of our Park and Rec Commissioners, Kate, Sharon, Bridget, and 3 city council members. Next slide. The purpose of the committee, and this isn't formalized, but my understanding was to provide oversight of the ARPA Wayne County grant project. So this, I'll recap that grant specifically. But it was really to engage our stakeholders, like our council, our Park and Rec commissioners, people who have a special interest in Radcliffe, and to really have some guidance. And then something from the very beginning was to improve transparency, right? So when this grant started, there wasn't a lot of transparency. So this committee was formed, well, the first meeting was in March, but this was the purpose of the committee. So next slide. The priorities driving grant spending. So this slide is actually directly out of the July presentation I did when I was brand new. And this holds true till today. There's 3 key priorities. Grant compliance, right? Making sure that whatever we're spending qualifies for grant reimbursement. It seems like a no-brainer, but we know one of the grants, the CDBG, did not qualify, and what we thought when we thought we were spending grant money, that was not the case. So being compliant is really important. Number 2 was to spend thinking about the future. And again, this is from last July, before I knew about the cuts coming our way. So even then, we were looking at preserving the building and planning for long-term operation based on the staffing and funding available, knowing that we're not going to have grant money to operate year in and year out. And then the third thing, third priority is, as I mentioned, rebuilding trust. So that's transparency, improved reporting, community, council input, and respect for the processes. So these were those priorities in July, and I wanted to circle back to them and really put them into our committee, because that's really, at the heart of the committee. So the next slide is just a general recap of the ARPA Wayne County. grant. So this was a $4 million grant for Radcliffe renovations. It had a $1 million match that Garden City already put in. To date, we have submitted invoices and been reimbursed for 3.2 million of the 4, right? In progress or encumbered, meaning we've committed to it, council's passed it, work is underway, is around 235,000. So 548,000 is what's left to spend. And again, we have to complete and expend all of the funds by October 31st. So that's a big recap.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in other words, are you saying that it's only a $4 million grant because your total, to me, only comes to $4 million?
Yes, I'm not sure I understood that.
Okay, we'll do this real slow. Submitted as 3.2, right?
Yep.
Left to spend 235, or I mean, incumbent 235. The 548, that's 4 million, but we're
Yes.
talking 5.
Nope,
Where's the other mill?
nope, that's our, so,
The 4 million includes the 1 million. It's
Nope.
3 million and 1 from us.
nope. The 1 million was expended before I even got here, before
Okay.
we really even executed this grant. So it was in progress. It was part of the leveraging for grant money, was showing the investment. And that came from, it was originally ARPA funds, but it was in the general fund capital. So it's really $4 million that is being reimbursed for. Does that make sense?
But 5 million spent, or?
Right,
Right.
so
It was
when we talk about the
basically a
project.
5 million spend.
Yeah.
But we spent $1 million of it before we got the grant.
Right, well, and there's other funds, right? There's the 2.1 HUD that's in progress or in steps, and then there's a CDBG, 200,000. So in total, it's a $7 million plus project. But the committee is really focusing on the ARPA primarily, on that particular grant. So the next slide, and this is again a repeat slide, this is the approved project scope areas. So the top left square was what was in the grant application. And this is so critical because these project scope areas have not changed. What has changed is the budgeted amounts in each of them, because as spending, and we've talked about this before, but some of the anticipated costs were just really low, or just so much more was spent. So last fall, in meeting, and I meet with ARPA every other week to touch base on how we're doing. They allowed us to move around the budget so we could add more money to the roof, right? We knew we weren't building a separate gymnasium. So we shifted all of the budget around in August of last year. But we had to keep all of the project scope areas. We cannot add new things or just spend it on other things. It's tied to what was approved by the Wayne County Board when they executed the grant.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at here is the original budget, the revised budget, and then the next slide is the most current budget revision. So they've been asking for us to revise it because the last reimbursement that I had put forward, we were way over in some areas and we were using contingency money, and they wanted us to go back and resort it so that we're not using as much contingency. Because if you remember, we had $200,000 for the ADA bathrooms, then we got the other grant, so we were able to take that money and distribute it into other project scope areas. So this page is showing, again, all of the same project scope areas, but a revised value based on either actual costs, and then some are anticipated. And this project is very non-traditional. Usually for a project this size, we would have professional project managers, we would have engineering services, design services, but as often can happen in smaller governments or even in Parks and Rec, we just get tasked to do these other areas. I forget why I was saying that, but there was a reason. Anyway, oh, I know, because we don't have exact costs. We're doing our best within the committee and with our contractor giving us estimates, trying to get quotes on things, but it's really difficult to know what the gym expansion, and that's like the removal of the stage and the flooring, what that's going to cost until they completed the demo, and we could see what was there, where the ductwork was, and those sort of things. So it's very fluid and changing all the time. But this is the rough budget we're now operating within. And you can see it all totals to $4 million. All right, so the next page.
Can I jump in again?
Yep.
I'd like to go back. Are we putting the new boiler and the resurfaced asphalt parking lot in another wish list or another
That just
off to
really-
the side, or is that just going to get forgotten about and then one day it's going to be a big headache because we didn't take care of it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have enough money for all of the original things that were envisioned.
Right.
So there is no money allocated to the asphalt parking lot. What was the other one you mentioned?
New boilers.
The new boilers. That we're utilizing the HUD money for, the boilers and the HVAC system. So remember, that's a different funding source. So that is a zero budget line now.
So maybe in the revised budget, we should put that in there. HUD, HVAC or
But this
whatever.
budget, just to be clear, this is ARPA only. So when I deal with ARPA, they don't really care what we're doing with HUD, like, right? So
Right,
this
but I'm
is
saying if
their
other
budget.
people are going to be looking at this, I'm thinking somebody else might ask the same question and say, okay, so we're just going to wait till the boiler's crap and then it's going to be $500,000 instead of 300?
Right, well, I'm just
But
showing
I'm just saying,
you
somebody
the
else might say-
original scope.
Yeah, this was the original scope.
No, I get what you're saying, but I don't know how many other people are going to look at this sheet and have the same question I have, because it'll be like, well, you have to remember, we're all treading on thin ice, right, because of everything that's happened. What I see happening is one of these days, all of a sudden, there's going to be a big sinkhole in the parking lot over there, and we're going to go, oh, we should have took care of that 10 years ago. We knew we had to do something, but we put it to the side because we didn't have the money for it. I'm just saying we need to make sure that those stay out in front of us if money is available. Are they on some type of list that we need to go back and review those and not have it be 5 or 10 years later where it's going to be 3 times what the cost is today?
Right, I think you're right, it remains an identified need,
Okay.
but there is no funding for it.
I guess the thing is, you just gave me the right term. It's an identified need, it's been identified, we need it, we know we need it. It just can't fall through the cracks.
At the committee meeting, I did bring up the parking lot, using some funds towards it. And a couple of people suggested maybe working with the schools, because they use that a lot. And then with the completion of the field that's right there, they'll be using like the other side too. So if the city and the schools could maybe get together on that, that might help.
It's going to be a costly project to redo that whole park.
Yeah.
It's a big parking lot.
And to be honest, we
I'm thinking
can't
that
do it now
300,000 is a little
because
light.
If you remember, when we did an environmental review for HUD for that grant, we cannot tear up the grounds because we didn't have time to do the archaeological portion of the environmental study. So we have to get through this. So honestly, that's why it's not even in the conversation right now. We can't do it. It would jeopardize our HUD money. All right, so the next page is another look at kind of the same thing. This is the active project scope areas. And it's just demonstrating that these, again, are those 12 scope areas. This is actually what I have to turn into the county when we do reimbursements. So the column C is showing the budgeted amount. Column D is showing how much we have to date used of that budget. Then column E would be the new spending. And then you start to see the percentage of that. So how much of the budget have we used, what's left? And that's what column H is showing us, like what's left in each of those scope areas.
And the lines going through it
The
completed?
lines going through it represent, those are complete.
So, okay.
Or,
Completion?
Except for somebody made a mistake on the ADA restroom updates.
no, that's
They're saying it's,
there.
under the column that says completed work, it says 100%.
Yes.
And there's not a line through it like the rest of them. So somebody, in my eyes, looking at this, somebody made a mistake.
So let me try to explain it. So the budget there
Yeah.
is $25,000. We've spent 2,300, but we have 22,000
25.
like already committed to. So this is, so that is 100%, because if you remember, all we're spending in the ADA is the engineering services, because we couldn't cover those in the CDBG. They only covered construction. So our design work, engineering is in there. And then there's additional 12,500 that is coming from ARPA to supplement the second set of bathrooms that council approved to finish out the other CDBG money. So I know it's really confusing. There was $200,000.
Right, but you see but you see what I'm saying. You're not being consistent with the way this form is laid out. You're not
Well, I
being
think
consistent
I'm-
with the way the form's laid
I'm
out.
trying to show that that's an active area, so there's stuff in progress. It hasn't been zeroed out yet.
Well, then it shouldn't be 100% then.
Well, because
It should be
what I
like
did in this
10%.
form is try to show you where we are. So yeah, if you don't like that, I'm sorry. I'm trying to highlight what is active and what the committee is working on. So the ADA bathrooms is something the committee worked on because we had to combine 2 grants to get the second set done. But we are essentially done.
Construction is,
Yeah, you're done with the bid, and you've got a contractor in there and everything.
Right, and we know what ARPA funds.
No, I get what you're saying, but if you're going to put out a spreadsheet like that, at least whoever put that spreadsheet out did a great job. But the thing is, they need to be consistent in the listings.
Well, to me it is, so I hear you. It's not clear to you, so I apologize for that. It's very complicated, all of these. I spend a lot of time because we don't have any grant support. So just be clear on that. It is just me working on this.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the best I can. So the next slide is, again, identifying those active project scope areas. So it's just listing them without all the numbers. And this is what the committee is discussing, working on. So the gymnasium, auditorium, the ADA restroom that we just talked about, the Imagination Station, because that's not fully complete, we have some outstanding items, our community kitchen, security features, completion of activity rooms, and then contingency. So those are the areas that we're continuing to work in as we finalize and move forward to complete the project. Any questions on that? So the next slide is a recap. The committee first meeting was March 19th. And right away, there were 2 identified project scope priorities, along with some additional wish list items. So community kitchen and gymnasium were identified as the most important priorities to figure out what were they going to cost and therefore what would be left for the other items. At the time, we also were, or the committee also became, I don't even know how to say this, so we weren't allowed to spend anything, any amount of the grant without committee support. So normal purchasing procedures, up to $4,000 can be spent, or, once it's $10,000, it always goes to council, but under $10,000, the city manager can sign off. But so that's what happened at the committee. So now, no spending allowed without committee support. What we didn't do was clarify what exactly that was. So that's kind of come up. Well, what does it mean to have support? We haven't been voting. So that's something that we have to figure out in that committee, or if you guys have ideas. So the next slide is going to update to what occurred in April. So you're looking at a map, and I highlighted the areas that went to city council in mid-April for approval. So that was to move ahead with the community kitchen, to move ahead removing the stage, The exit signs are a code thing in a whole series of rooms. To clean up the science lab room and do some ceiling repairs. So that's what occurred in April. The other things that started happening at that time were the main entrance bathrooms. So again, ARPA funded the architectural services, which we just looked at in the spreadsheet, whereas the construction's funded by CDBG. So that's the April progress that we saw. So the next slide is also, I'm going to mention some of the other spending. So there were invoices related to already approved council items that have still come in. In other words, the roof, various invoices have come in, over winter for that. The ADA restroom consultant fees. We had the HVAC consultant work, again, that went to council, but we're continuously paying on them. And so that's why you see the delays, and then we can do a $350,000 reimbursement, because these are all those encumbered costs that take time. There was a purchase of table linens for the auditorium tables. Most recently, we purchased 5 patio picnic tables, and then there was some relocation of audio box wires in the gymnasium, moving of the time clock in the community kitchen. So this is pretty much a comprehensive recap of what has been spent in the grant. Any questions on that? Then the next page gives us the May progress. So, and I tried to, it's really confusing looking at all this, but what we see in yellow are all those April projects. Those are in progress. So in May, we learned about a rental possibility that would provide a pretty good chunk of income to the Radcliffe operation. And I marked that in the orange kind of angled stripes. So that's our imagination station, the large cardio room, meeting room 1, and then craft room 2 or senior fitness are question marks, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But this is an area designated for a renter, potentially in the fall. So now we're learning about this. At the same time, we are moving ahead to complete the other set of bathrooms to try to utilize the remaining funds of CDBG. And we have to borrow, or not borrow, but use that 12.5 amount from ARPA. The laundry room, that's because the community kitchen is where it housed our 2 washer and dryers. But through the process of designing that kitchen space, we had to find a new place for the washer and dryers. So those moved down next to what was, it was labeled as teaching kitchen, but it was the old science lab. So that's sort of drawn out in yellow. The computer lab, all the computers have been removed. Actually, there might be, I think, 3 or 4 in there. But that was designated as a potential cardio room build because it's a nice size, and if we lose the large cardio room, there was concern about where to put all those classes. The art room 2 is the small room that's unfinished, that has a lot of damage from the water, that sits between the bathrooms I marked in orange and that large cardio room. So this is a space where originally it was going to go to a renter, and then after our last meeting, it came up, well, maybe we move some things around. Maybe the renter would like the senior fitness room. Maybe we move senior fitness over there and expand it. So these are some of the happenings in May. And then at council, only 3 things passed. So there's a lot of questioning of what our process is and what's happening. So it's a very complicated thing to keep everybody up to speed on, because just looking at this, can get confusing. Any questions that you guys have? So really what happened the last several meetings, there's a lot of discussions happening in our committee meeting, right? There's the loss of some valuable parks and recreation spaces. So we're talking about cardio room, the meeting room, potentially our craft room. So we're talking about how that impacts parks, talking about how to centralize parks and recreation in the building to optimize rental space, to optimize income, to help Parks and Rec sustain. There's discussion of, one of the other wish list items was fitness room expansion. So moving it to a bigger room and adding free weights. That's been discussed at length in our committee as well. So where would that go? The committee's looked at several different options. The last one at the last meeting talked about moving senior fitness from where it is now, expanding it to combine craft room 1 and craft room 2. That would displace craft room, the big craft room, and the only room available was the gift shop, which was the old cafe. So that's about half the size, So that's what you're looking at here. Some of these red marks is like the moving, and again, this is all discussion because none of this is 100%. The cardio room, again, that did not pass at council. So I'm not sure, if that's just not desired. I don't really know. The thrift shop is being envisioned down where the teaching kitchen was. So this is just trying to represent some of the changes. And then within all this, we're still trying to determine the budget for the key areas, the kitchen and the gymnasium, right? And then there's some operational wish list items that I'm always bringing forward. Nobody really likes them because they're operational or thinking about long-term maintenance or things that I'm concerned about, knowing that our operating budget has been cut in half. So we don't even have like materials and supplies. So, there's a lot of conflicting ideas at this point. The remaining amount is $548,000, with kind of where we are. So if we start, let's go into the gymnasium topic. The next slide. This is our best estimate of the cost. We know what the drop-down curtains are. We know the basketball hoops. We don't know for sure the gym lighting, the wall padding, the gym fans, the tech panels, and the gym floor. So we are working to get pricing on that because that's important. I mean, how we, we want to be able to complete these things. So we're trying to work on those things, but
Now, the gym floor, would you take out the flooring that's in there now?
I think what we've talked about is keeping the blue floor and just adding floor and making it seamless. I think our contractor's got a lot of great ideas, and just adding new in the kind of the stage portion.
area, okay.
Like our auxiliary gym or the third. And the idea is to have 2 dividers, so we have almost 3 equal spaces. So we can do dodgeball, we could do, the FRC activities, and we could have drop-in basketball all at the same time, with dividers. So that's the goal.
The estimate for basketball hoops, 30 grand, so is that all the way around?
That would be for 4 hoops that are ceiling mounted that come down and adjust. So we could put in a full-size court running the length, but that's right now not what we have envisioned because we don't have room for bleachers, so it's really not something that GCYAA was interested in because we don't really have a gym for like full games, but what we have are more drop-in activities, 3-on-3 or half court.
Yeah.
Right.
Where the
So the
kids
idea
could
was
use-
to run them short-wise, but have like 3-point lines and then 2 sets of those hoops. So we think we need around $207,000 to $211,000. The big ticket item is the gym floor. I think that was a high-end estimate. We think it'll be less than that because we're not doing the entire floor, but we're leaving it there because there's other things too that are coming up, like the HVAC units. We took the stage down and there's a large panel that's now floating, like 10 feet up the wall. So we have to have that. We have to pay to move that down so that it meets code. Things like that are occurring that we have to have some room for so that we don't run out of money and,
Took that office out too. In the
Yes, and the small audio box, yes, that was removed with the stage.
question?
What is a gym tech panel?
They took that out. So it's nice and open.
I think,
Is that a scoreboard?
wait. No, I think it's something, it's the technology, I'm trying to think.
I mean,
I
we
don't
don't
know.
see a scoreboard, but that doesn't mean that we need one.
I just wonder if you don't
I don't recall right now.
games, for the, then why have a scoreboard?
I don't think it's a scoreboard, but
I did,
I'm
I
not-
just assumed it might be.
I can't remember.
The wall that,
I don't know, it's not the wall padding, so I'm not sure. I will find out, because, do you remember, Kate?
I don't, but John is. I'm waiting to see what he comes up with here. He's Googling it.
Yeah, I don't know, I will,
Something related to the sound, we were talking, because they have, boxes that hang out kind of up high on a platform, so we were talking about getting rid of those, so maybe it's something in relation to that.
Yeah, there's really nothing out there for whoever.
I'll
came
look
up-
into that and find out what.
Up with that verbiage, God love them.
it has really made that gym a lot bigger by taking that stage
That
out.
stage out.
Yeah. So, okay, so if we sort of set aside that amount of money, so if we remember that 548,000, well, now we're kind of subtracting 207. And then the next slide is our community kitchen. So what we have budgeted right now is about 90,000. We know the appliances are around 25,000. It doesn't include a dishwasher, prep sink, some other like smaller things. We know there's going to be some kitchen smallwares, all the things needed for cooking or teaching. Also in here are 2 countertop ovens that are really for the concession but have never been purchased. And then miscellaneous costs would be like decor, whether there's been discussion of doing a mural in there, an awning to make it cute, stools, the food programming supplies, so just miscellaneous things. So again, we don't have an exact price of what all this will be. I'm still sort of waiting on the big ticket appliances to see those come through. But I think 90,000 is ample for those items. It's gonna, what are you giggling at?
So in other words, we're canning the teaching kitchen, right?
No, we're just calling it community kitchen because somebody brought up a good point that it's not just for teaching, it should be available for groups and, rental parties, like if they're hosting an event. So community kitchen is the teaching kitchen, but rebranded, I guess.
And if there's a party, they could use it to heat up stuff that they bring
Yeah.
in and things like that.
Yeah.
Some place to put salads together.
Right. And if you've been in Radcliffe, you've seen a big wall was hold out.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a window there, and that's just to, I think, show what's going on there and for people to see.
When, appliances, this kind of general, are you like to install, I mean, how
Yeah,
is it?
so one of the council member, Kara Fotis, has really dove into this, and she's done some of the price checking, and she's identified, I think it's an 8-burner stove. We have a large fridge unit. There's a couple of vents, I think. I actually haven't seen it, so that's why I don't know it that well. But it's, commercial stuff, and I think like the stacking ovens, So the idea is all of that is going to be vented or put near the exterior of that room so that the venting can go right out into the staff parking lot, because certain equipment requires really massive ventilation that can be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is kind of a mix of a home kitchen, but like a higher quality, so that we can license it, so people can use it as a catering thing. We could do classes, but it's not going to be a commercial kitchen like, over at Schoolcraft or so. And then there's a big table that's meant to be
It's been scaled down quite a bit, because originally it was going to be 6 stations, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so now it's more of a large island with some maybe mobile carts that can be rolled in. and utilizing the features that were already there. This was the old original kitchen of the school, and there was like a hand sink, a tri-sink, like the dishwashing sink, all of the oven and stuff, those were all torn out. But yeah, it's a lower vision, I don't want to say a lower, just a different vision.
And a compromise, right?
Yeah, a compromise to
With
still
budget.
have a functional kitchen that we can do food programming,
Yeah.
and that groups can use.
Okay.
So that's the community kitchen. So that's 90,000. So if you take our gymnasium, our kitchen, next slide. So now we've got 250,000 that we're trying to figure out how to spend. And some of the items being discussed and considered, the fitness room expansion, as I mentioned, where to put it, what are the goals of that? The security items, which not everybody's interested in, and then those wish lists and operational wants. So, and I think I might have messed up your packets. The next page, go to the next slide. I think I got them out of order. So if you go down a couple pages to the fitness room expansion, we'll start with that one. So again, this is from an interest to enlarge and move to a different room, potentially to craft room 1 and 2, but then that would mean moving the craft room to the old cafe. So it is a considerable downsize to the craft room, but
Here
craft
now.
classes
This is
aren't
where it is
typically
now.
huge, but she'll have up to 15 or 20 in some of the classes. And so it would be pretty tight. We'd have to add plumbing into the gift shop, bring in a lot of cabinets. And usually, if you think about art classes, it's all about storage and supplies. And so the current room she has is like wall to wall of countertops. So that would be lost. And so trying to figure out how would that impact programming, is a big thing. It would create a connected space to expand the current fitness room. We know that the fitness room has been really successful. Again, there's interest in adding more free weights. So the one thing, too, we have to check on is really making sure that our grant will cover this, because my last meeting with them, they were very stern in that if you change any project scopes, it will not be funded. So how this would fit into those original project scopes is something that I would have to really get a better answer on before we started on that, because I don't want to see us do that and then
Find out you don't get reimbursed.
find out we don't get reimbursed. And the thing that's tricky about this is, if you remember, the original fitness room was supposed to be CDBG, and we worked with this current grant committee to move our project from the fitness room to what is now the bathroom project. So in other words, our grant coordinators have walked our building and they know our grant projects. So it makes me a little nervous to start switching them around. The way that I tried to do it was list off all the possible things that I knew about in the beginning. So if you see the grant pages and updates I sent them, it was like the finish completion of rooms. It was the patio, the courtyards, the cardio room too, because we had known about that interest. So there's a lot of things named, but there isn't anything on a fitness room yet. Can we roll it into the gymnasium? Those are things that we'd have to really feel confident in. So that's one of my worries there. So right now, that was kind of the last meeting, is what are we going to do with that? And it sounds like the renter would be willing to switch those rooms, so that's not an obstacle. It's just, I think, more the funding and the logistics, and then what is it going to cost to do all that work? So our contractor is going to have a quote for us, I think this week, on what that cost is to do that. Any questions on that?
I wasn't at last Wednesday's meeting when you guys discussed this, so I missed it. But I am very hesitant to we've already put so much money in to finish that craft room. I feel like it's one of the only programs that runs consistently. So it's hard for me to, the flooring in there or the cabinets, we spent a lot of money, and it's one of the only successful things. So I would rather find a different room.
Is that the one right when you walk into the right?
I'll share that at the
Yeah, and I
subcommittee
mean,
meeting,
you know,
too.
I did meet with the art teacher, and obviously she was pretty disappointed to hear about that potential plan. She does run classes from youth through seniors, and it is one of our more successful programs. I mean, she's really fantastic. You know, but, and this is where we have to figure out how are these decisions being made, because I think ultimately council's going to be deciding these, you know. But
You
To
said
be
the
determined.
fitness is doing good, the fitness center. You
Yeah.
said it's doing good.
Yep. Yeah.
But wouldn't the crafts fall more under Parks and Rec?
Yeah, it does.
So why wouldn't Parks and Rec be able to make the decision and not council? What do they need us for if they're going to make our decisions?
Because it's going to cost money.
They should trust us.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of trust. So, I mean, but these are the conversations that we're having, and I think this is where we're kind of getting stuck because we don't have a mechanism for informing the rest of council. And then, I mean, ultimately, council does set the direction. And then I'm told what to do, and that's how government works, you know?
I will say, the committee, it's great. It has a few of us, a few of council members. I know one of the questions was on bridging that gap of information, because it is an informal meeting, right? There's no minutes, there's no agenda, I mean, what about taking votes on different things? Is that, with it being an informal meeting, is that allowed? Like you said with the spending, are you guys trying to figure that out? Or, I guess, how is the information getting to council? I mean, this presentation is great, right? Obviously, they could view this, or are you making it available to them just so the others that aren't part of that committee can see?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the last council meeting, it was clear that some of the council feels in the dark. I always hate, you know, being accused of not being transparent because that's what we're trying to do. But I think when we formed the committee, it wasn't clear. How are we reporting back? How are we sharing this? And so just because this group is informed, it doesn't mean everybody is. And so that's why I decided, well, one, I need to update you all, but I'm going to share this with council as well.
And aren't there 3 council members on the committee?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because I do think it's, as we get to the end, there's going to have to be a direction given. Because, you know, and I was thinking the same thing, like maybe we have a vote. Because when I left the meeting, I thought we reviewed things and this was good, and then I find out, well, no, that's not the case. So it's, you know, not as successful when we're not on the same page. And I think we need a better way to do that.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees that the money has to be spent before the deadline, right? Or we lose it, so
Yeah, yeah,
what to spend it on.
yeah, yeah. Yep, that's exactly it. So that's that topic. Then the next item is the security. And so again, these are like original project scope areas that were approved, that were set in motion before I came on. A lot of money has been invested into our security system. We have a lot of cameras. I should know how many. It's a lot. We started the door fobbing to help with keys and access. There are 430 doors in Radcliffe. We started fobbing a lot of the doors since, when did we start? I think since January. And now we can see, because I get a weekly report of how many people are accessing, and you can see who at what time. So remember, we have not just staff, we have renters, we have cleaners, and we have contractors, all accessing the building at different times in different ways. And it really is, it's not just because we're all lazy and you don't want to use a key. For us, it's a way to maintain security and know who's coming and going. We know when the grant's gone, there's not going to be any more money to do these sort of things. It costs around $3,000 a door to get it set up for the fob. There's a handful of doors that are left that we were hoping to do. And the reasoning, am I on the right screen? Yeah. You know, we did start outlining a key and access policy because when I started over at Radcliffe, I really didn't know who had keys. There wasn't a really there wasn't a log of who'd been issued exterior keys or interior keys. And so not knowing that, and knowing how much things we have in our building, just does not seem like a good way to manage. So we've had to rekey. I think they've rekeyed several times the exteriors. We're gonna do it one more time in the summer. Now that we've moved ultimately to all fobbing for the exterior access. So meaning, if you're coming from the outside, you have to fob in. The interior doors, there's just too many to do all 400 doors, right? There's closets, a copier room. So we've tried to identify the rooms that have the most activity, or help us monitor who's coming and going. So, and as you can imagine, if anyone here has been responsible for a building with 430 doors and managing keys, it is a huge staff thing to manage who's getting the keys, making copies, how many times Head Start staff have new staff in, they need access. We have staff from T-Lab, we're gonna have new renters coming, new cleaners, our staff. So it's a lot of time spent making, issuing, and tracking access. We have around 6,000 swipes a month, so that's how many people are using. And that's that report that I can see how many, it's about 1,500 accesses each week. And so we've looked at completing the missing rooms to set the future up for reducing the amount of staff time to manage keys, essentially. So the next page is and these are the pricing. Part of this project, we have some in-house expertise from our communications department who has taken on like project management, and there's multiple vendors to come in and to do the install and then the wiring. And it actually is a really affordable way to do it. But this is just sort of the price you can see outlined. There's an alarm system that has partially been installed but not completed. And to be honest, I'm not that passionate about that because I feel like the door fobbing is a great security feature for us. There's some other items on here, like if we were to do this comprehensive completion of this step, it's like $45,000. And I know, some members of the committee are just not supportive of this. So this is again where we're kind of butting heads. This isn't important to everybody. So, again, I'm not sure the best way to make these decisions of what we spend the money on, but that's one that's been discussed. So the next slide, then the remaining are the wish list items. And so many of these have been debated and removed, or they're left, and some of them we don't have exact pricing. But again, I know when the grant money's gone, we're not gonna have money to add our entrance signage or more picnic tables to the patio or the courtyard. A printer for badges, that's $7,000, but you see how many badges we have, how many access points. Trying to invest into our camp room. There's windows that don't open in our offices that we would really like to have access to because there's problems with temperature control. So we've got AC going and we've got heaters going, and
Which one is the teen camp room?
What room?
Yeah.
The adult game room.
Oh, okay.
Because we've lost the first two options we were thinking for summer, but in the summer, we're going to convert that to the camp room and probably cover the billiard tables.
All right.
But, we'd like to add another ping pong table and just some other things for the kids. We know we need to complete the exterior play area. That Head Start was moved. If you remember, they had one of the interior courtyards. This is going to be one that the renters are taking. And we ripped out their equipment but didn't install it correctly. And there's a couple of things. The fencing doesn't meet code for them, for their licensing. So we need to repair those things for them because we did them. Exterior wayfinding, this is probably the most irritating thing for people coming to visit us for the first time. They always end up, Google Maps will take you to the Head Start entrance, and then you can't get in there, and then they walk in another door, and then they come around. It just, people get very disoriented from the outside because there's nothing labeled about what's where. And part of it's because we haven't figured everything out yet, but I definitely hope we have some money for wayfinding. A shed for a garden, that's pulled off because we're hoping that it gets donated by Home Depot. Some entry rugs, we would like at the very front. The one that we had there, a really large one, got damaged during the construction time. Recycling bin stations, would like to provide 3 or 4 recycling stations inside that look nice. There's these walk-off carpet things that are being requested, maybe some murals and art. So again, these are wish list items, you know, if we get to where we can buy some of these things.
So you're saying a contractor, the rug got tore up because of contracting?
No,
You are. I'm telling you to go to the contractor and tell them to pay for the damn rug, or we'll take it off their bill.
What happened was it got folded up and put into storage, and in storage, it got destroyed. So, and then when we rolled it out, it was so lumpy, and it was just a huge tripping hazard. And so we tried to wet it. I mean, we tried a few things, and then we just took it to the dumpster. So,
Are you going to get new front doors
no, the doors got nixed
for the
again.
front, for the entrance?
Yeah. So that was one of my wish list items too.
Does
but
that handicap button work?
sometimes,
Okay, I seen somebody push it the other day and it didn't open, and I thought.
yeah, we've had a lot of issues with the automatic door closers, and then the button will often not work. So again, for me, operating that building, like, it'd be really nice to have, you know, a functioning, dependable
Even just
entrance.
one, or at least fixing it, if it's like a
Yeah.
wiring issue or.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have any electrical people in our
Oh, the doors are open.
DPW?
But they're open, yeah. I never use them.
Yes.
Could they look at the door?
Oh, they do. I mean, that's what happens. It breaks, then we put in a service request, they come out, they fix it, it works. It breaks, they come out. I mean, that's what we do. It's just old, you know, so. So those, I mean, that's a loose 88,000, right? But whether those got support or not is, again, the process that we don't have figured out. So that really is the end of my presentation. That's the best summary I can give to you. I think if you have ideas for how you think we should make decisions to finish this out, or what are priorities to you, I'm happy to incorporate that into my next presentation.
On to the public hearing.
You want to say nothing about that?
Any question out there?
Okay, well,
No,
no,
you're
hang
good.
on,
Oh.
going back to this.
Wait. I think she's still discussing.
Oh, go ahead.
I appreciate this presentation. I think you guys are Parks and Recs. You know, we're all on here because we're heavily involved with Parks and Recs. So I'm glad that you guys can get an update, and I'm curious to hear all your opinions. I've been not happy with the amount of renting the building that is going on and continuing to be on the horizon. I was really bummed about Imagination Station, so I've been very vocal about that in our subcommittee meetings. But yeah, I think we discuss, and then ultimately higher-ups also have their say. So I want to hear, you know, what you guys think about Radcliffe, especially, you know, I know you're there a lot.
There's a lot of construction going on. I like the gym,
I haven't seen
what they're
it
doing
yet.
with the gym. You can't really see it because they've got plastic up where they tore the stage down.
Got the Visqueen up.
It's a lot bigger, and
Without the stage.
without the stage, yes. It looks like it's really gonna make it a more viable room to use.
Hopefully the flooring can be seamless, you know,
Yeah.
or the net. I like the net idea too, dividing it.
But I agree, that craft room, that gets a lot of use. I see kids in there all the time.
It was just a lot of money that was already spent on it too. But I would like to see fitness, you know, have a bigger space also, I think. You know, I want to see Parks and Recs offer it all.
But they say that you're getting more people using the fitness center, right? So maybe it should be a little bigger, we can make a little more money.
They just opened it up to adults, so I
Yeah.
think, you know, maybe in the fall, we can let the community
I don't know how, I don't know how many people are in it in the evening, because I go during the day, so.
And you say there's a lot in the day, right?
In the day, there can be like 8, 10 people in there at once sometimes.
Well, we don't have to wait till fall. We can put it on the website that it's open till adults, right? Or is there something out
Well,
there?
remember,
I mean, we
the
got to
summer
market it.
hours,
Yeah, it's
3
every-
weeks,
We can't?
mean we're only open 9 to 2. So that's going to be the biggest.
They said adults are only allowed to
Obstacle.
use it in the evenings, but now we're.
Oh, we're only going to be open from 9 to 2, but the seniors can use it, the seniors can use it at night when it's not open.
Adults, you mean?
No, seniors, because they're adults too.
Yeah, no one can use it.
No one can use it at night.
We close at night.
Right.
Well, that's a real good thing, you know? We can use it at night, but it's not going to be open then. Okay.
Right.
So
Well, all of those things
somebody's
we
got to
don't have
answer
before
that
these
one.
things, So it's like,
It's something that needs to go back to city council and go, look, you told the seniors and the adults they could use it at night, but we have no night staffing. How are we going to do that now? And put it back on them. They're the ones who kiboshed it for night, so whoever kiboshed it, put it back on them. If you need me to text Mark, I'll text Mark.
well,
I don't have a
I
problem.
mean, it's a budget crisis issue, right? So, but that's exactly right. When we don't have staff to open the rooms, then it's not available. And I think that the intent is to increase revenue so that we can have staffing. You know, like our plan is to open up in September back to more traditional hours, but not Saturday night and not Sunday. So that's always going to be a limit to the gym, is we're just not going to have the type of hours that everybody might be looking for, you know? But
Okay, wait, now, so you want to take the craft rooms where they're at and put a fitness room in there?
that is one of the ideas, yeah.
Why, I mean, since you said that it's kind of already got all the storage and it's.
Yeah.
Because there's
laid out
no,
pretty-
there's no rooms. Even like this large cardio room, when the renter takes it, we, like as a subcommittee, we were like, we need a cardio room, right? That is used a lot. So
Yeah.
we're like scrambling to find other rooms to continue to offer the community what is already while.
And trust me, we've looked at a lot of rooms. We've looked at the admin offices. That's the where my old office was, where we decorated the tree, right, over there. You know, but that's a weird space.
Yeah, right. It-
We've run out of room.
We are, right, I mean,
That's
Yeah.
sad.
I mean, the only free space is right now the old cafe, but it's, you know, I don't know that it's great for the craft room.
There are 2 classrooms in the 600 hall that are rented sometimes, but they're in a weird corner that only like Head Start goes. So
Yeah, right.
when she
There's no
says there's
bath-
one room, there is literally
lockers.
one room that is empty.
I mean, we could do the original teaching kitchen, but that is designated for
Thrift store.
thrift shop, you know, but that would have been a great gym space. That's a nice big.
Well, I'm just trying to think in my head, what is the lounge? I mean,
So
that lounge space is,
that is one of the most popular rental spaces, like groups during the day or even night. So it's got all the square tables and the booths.
Yeah, oh, yes.
booths in there, and it connects to the auditorium. So like birthday parties and the parents' night out they use. So it's a pretty busy programming.
People use it during the day too, I've seen.
Yeah,
Do
we have
they
a couple of groups.
A group that is,
Hearing
Hearing impaired?
Yep, the Metro Detroit Deaf
they
Area
use that during the day. And it's full of people at that
Yeah.
time.
So how often does the FRC have a meeting?
Yeah, we can't really touch that space.
Nope.
This room, I see them use a
The
lot.
storage room is an open
The
spot.
FRC, we can't touch it because it's from grant money or whatever, or what's,
Well,
I need to know
it's-
why we can't touch it.
Because they do, so they're a grant program, they're under the Parks and Rec umbrella, but, and, you know, I think it's just the history of it, but you know, their funds, they help support the city, they help support the police officers, so they have other ways that they really contribute to the city.
No, but I'm saying it says meeting rooms, so you can't tell me they're meeting 5 days a week, 40 hours a week.
They hear people,
No, but I will say they run, so they do a lot of groups and things, but they have, they have their own secure spaces and,
So they can't do like an FRC activity meeting room and just have one room instead of two?
I don't think, they have 5 full-time staff over there. And then we have 2 in the whole entire, you know what I mean, like
I
Parks and
think
Rec.
one room is used, I see, like parents and kids come in, and then the other room is when they run like kid programming, I think. is what
Yeah,
I
they just have
see
a lot of
when they're-
evening programs. We're not gonna be able to get in
Yeah,
there
they're-
and use that
yeah.
space. I can just
they
tell
get a
you,
lot
that's
of
not.
referrals from the police department.
Have we asked?
They're trying to gain more space. Literally,
Yeah.
And they've been around for a long time.
yeah. So I don't see that as, and they're expanding into other cities, so I don't, we don't gain rent from them, but they do help the city in other ways. And it's a great service that's offered at Radcliffe.
I see the coyotes are gone from the courtyard.
Yeah, they did not work.
They left.
So,
The coyotes.
no, they did not work. But, all right, well, if you have any other thoughts, let me know.
Walk through the
That's
pla-
what's the update. I
Walk through the place and you'll see all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, yeah. A lot's going on.
Anything else about Radcliffe? Nice presentation. I appreciate you informing everyone.
Thank you.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
I am.
Moving on. Public hearing, anything? Maybe since there was a break, you thought of something? Nope, okay. Public comment? Okay, no public comment. Moving on. Items for consideration, old business.
All right, I passed out a draft flyer of our 3 workdays. So I feel like we've been talking about this for several meetings, and a couple things happened. We had to push back the dates. So now we're looking at a Manor Park cleanup, Tuesday, June 17th, from 4 to 6 p.m., and this is going to be a lot of the wood chips in the playground. Moeller Park cleanup, Sunday, June 22nd, from 1 to 3 p.m., and that would also be playground stuff, but potentially brush cutting if there's other things, depending on how many people we get. And then Kiwanis Park cleanup in July from 10 to 12. And Kiwanis has been, as a group, been working on some improvements they want to make, so I've been kind of touching base with them, and we have a meeting, gosh, I think Friday, to go over, because I'd reached out to see if they wanted to partner with us, to focus again on the wood chips, because I believe it's quite weedy, and, all of our wood chip surfacing is a little bit low for compliance. So those are the new dates. I apologize for having to change them, but if they work for us, and I don't know if, if one of these are your parks, is your park, like you're the
That
park?
Moeller is mine, and
Yeah.
that's better for me on the 22nd than
That
the
is
first.
better? Okay, good.
Yeah, because it was on the first. I
It
think.
was the first, and then there was like a tournament happening, and then we didn't really promote it, so it all kind of worked out, like, not to do it. But we haven't promoted them yet, so we need to get it out. We can put the signs in the park, try to get some volunteers signed up.
Did you tell the soccer club about Manor and then GCY?
Yes, I talked briefly to one of their persons, but what I said is we're hoping to finalize the workday at this meeting, and then I'm going to reach out tomorrow and make sure they have flyers, because we also have individual flyers for each park, but what you're looking at is all 3 of them.
I'll go to all of them, I don't care.
So,
Kiwanis I can walk to.
and again, we're just trying them on different days to try to appeal to different people and, so,
Yeah, like at different times and days.
yeah, so. So does those sound good?
Yep.
Who's our Manor Park? Actually, I know these things, I don't have to ask.
Be Jen?
Yep, Jen, so I better check with her. Moeller, Robert, and then Kate, yeah, you're Kiwanis. And you said that date was okay for you? Yeah, okay.
Far enough away where.
Yeah, I mean, it is far away, and it might be hot, that's why the morning, I think, is good, you know?
But at least their playscape needs a lot of work
Yeah,
for the wood chips and stuff.
yeah, so if those sound good, we can find, I guess I should check with Jen on Manor, but actually, that's the same date as it was before, so
Are you
that
getting more wood chips delivered?
yeah. So I'm gonna set up the wood chips, have them delivered, we'll have some of our park staff
Should we make a
available.
motion to approve the
Yeah,
workdays?
Okay. I need a motion to approve the park cleanup days.
I'll make a motion to approve the park cleanup days.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Next, mural.
all right, so you guys had some great feedback at the last meeting, and I went back, I did, you should have a flyer in front of you. I did talk to the artist. He is able to do the community paint so that people can volunteer and participate in the mural. And then you did have a request to go with this version, but with the other logo. So he's gonna do that. He just didn't sketch it out for me, so that's why it's not on the flyer, but, so we're gonna do that. We did pick the dates. He's gonna be doing prep work next week. And then the painting will be Friday, June 6th, 2 shifts, 4 to 6 and 6 to 8 p.m.
Just a dumb question that I didn't think about the last time. I'm assuming that this paint is going to be like a nod skid, or it's going to have sand in it? Because I'm assuming that when this gets wet,
Yes.
it's going to be slippery. If it's paint,
Yeah, I don't know, I can ask
Some
him.
type of
We can
texture
certainly
in
put
it.
sand in it or texture. Like sometimes the outdoor stuff, if you buy floor paint, it sometimes is tacky. So I'll confirm with him what's,
yeah, that'd be a good idea. I've sold enough paint, trust me.
yeah, I know, you don't want like a slippery,
Trust me.
I was
yeah.
wondering about a sealant, if you're gonna,
I don't think we are, so,
on it, you know?
yeah, you know, I've done a lot of murals, and there's a lot of different theories about coatings on them, but honestly, in my experience, the best, and are you thinking for deterrent, like,
No.
For graffiti or-
just foot traffic.
or just foot traffic to scuff it up? Okay. Yeah, I'll ask him about that, because I haven't done, we did a basketball court once, so let me go back and look and see what we did for a bottom.
Ask him how often this should be touched up. Does he know how long the paint lasts? Do we have any idea that if we paint this, are we going to be touching it up every year? Or is this going to be something that 2 or 3 years down the road that we'll touch it up?
Well, I do think this is a short-term beautification fix because, you know, ideally, we come into huge amounts of money and we're able to reinvest and update the bathroom because it's
Okay.
really an unattractive bathroom style and dated. So this is a relatively inexpensive way to brighten it and show that it's being cared for. Sometimes you can get a tag on it, you know, someone might do that. If you repair it quickly, that usually deters graffiti. And really, this is a way to deter graffiti, is to have murals. The floor is probably most likely to either get faded or, you know, be worn. So maybe we have to do it in a year or 2 years. But I think we just cross that one, you know, bridge when we get to it.
Assuming we'll keep like extra paint at the ice arena.
Yeah, well, we'll have all the paint that's left over, so we'll keep it for touch-ups. If we do get a tag, I've talked to the artist about coming out as an hourly rate if there's anything he has to do to fix it, but
Can I ask, is part of the prep work to do like that solid aqua base that we see there? You know, like
No, the prep work that he's gonna do is like power washing and repairing. There's a couple of things on the wall that he's gonna try to smooth out and whatnot. But
No, but I see
I think
what you're
that's where
saying with the
volunteers-
background painting, are they gonna do
Yeah,
the,
because you
Yeah.
have.
you got the cement floor, are you gonna do that first and then do the
Yeah.
background?
You can't.
Because she said it's paint by numbers.
Paint by number, you move your way out, right?
Well, I mean, if it's paint by numbers, you just wouldn't paint, you'd paint up to that, but that's gonna be
But that's
a lot
a good
of
question
hand cutting
about
and
the
stuff.
base, especially the walking part. I'll ask him that, because he's got some questions for me, I gotta follow up with him, but. And he's done a lot of murals, but he hasn't done the community paint style, so it'll be a little different. So that just means he's gotta outline it and mark.
Is it any less money to do it
No,
that way?
no,
Oh,
no.
well, then.
No, but it's like a way for people to contribute, and it's really fun, and we've already got 5 people signed up, you know. So if you're interested, you know, please share it, and there's limited spots.
I've got a wedding that, up north that weekend, and I know I can't make it.
Yeah, and fingers crossed it's good weather, because if it rains, we won't be doing it that day either.
Bring the
so.
bride down here and do some painting.
But our hope is to get it done before,
The wedding party down.
yeah, we're trying to get it done before the music in the park event that month. But, you know, the shelters are rented, I think, every Saturday of the whole summer, right? Yeah. So that's why we had to do a Friday night, because they're just rented, and, you know, and we can't be painting when people are trying to use, you know, the bathroom.
Have any more of these flyers that I could possibly, you know, staple up in the park?
For sure, I don't have them with me,
Okay, well, you know.
well, except the ones I passed out there, so you can grab those too.
Yeah, you can have
Go by the
mine.
Radcliffe Center?
You can have that one.
You can have mine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you take those.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can
because I
email it to you, but if you just want to,
I have I work with a ton of artistic people.
Okay.
At my work, and some of them live in the area, and maybe they'd be interested.
yeah,
John,
Yes, sir.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And there's a limited amount of spots, so tell them to hurry up if they're interested. But that's all I have on that, unless you all had any more. We did make it 15 years and older, though. And that's just
Yes.
experience.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, no, that's a good
The
idea.
little kids like to paint, but it's got to be a different.
You know, the other thing would be is if you got like one of those envelopes, the plastic ones, put it in there, staple it on the bottom and turn it upside down. That way if it does rain, you know what I'm saying, if you staple it, the rain can run
Yeah, you
into
could
it.
just tape-
So yeah, or tape the bottom
Well,
of it, tape the bottom
You know,
of it.
most people just take a picture of it with their phone.
Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously.
Well, I'm just thinking if it's
scan it.
underneath, if you're stapling to a tree and it's raining, I'm thinking if the rain's running down in there, then it'll,
Okay. New business, huh?
new business. Anything? Anybody? Other business?
Nope.
Public comment again? Anybody? Report from Parks and Rec Director. I guess, Erica, you're up again.
All right. I passed out the report. Per usual, you'll see April participation registration numbers. I did want to mention, because we're talking about the fitness room, we are averaging, 487 to 500 people a month. Or actually, that's visits. That's not individual people. I haven't figured out how to run that report yet. But, so those are the type of numbers in here. We can see, the other thing that's been really busy is Spaceport. 429 visits in April. Then on the back of the first page, there's just a few grant updates. I won't go through that because we kind of talked about most of it. Yeah, I'm not going to review that. Same with the Radcliffe project update. I feel like we did a pretty thorough update on that. I guess I will say the HVAC contract, that's the HUD money. That is been a bit tied up with the attorney. We're supposed to have a project meeting in the next week or so to start moving forward on that. But really, everything is just working with the committee, so we'll be meeting again Wednesday. Then really, a couple of other notes, the ice season has wrapped up, so I know Mike was sad, the ice was melting today. The ice show was a huge success a few weeks ago in May. So it is time for summer over there, and they start shifting staff to the parks.
Are you gonna be running programs out of the ice arena this summer at all? Anything? No?
No, we're not planning to run the AC
Yeah, it's a big expense.
to save, that's like $30,000.
We paid so much for them to run programming there in the summer, but maybe next summer.
Maybe next summer.
Yeah, thanks.
I do have a tree planting lining up for early June. This was a memorial tree. We are going to talk about trees again next month. I just didn't get to working on this. It's very busy, and, you know, we've just had a lot of staffing changes, so one day at a time. And then just the upcoming activities I wanted to note, tomorrow and Thursday, we have Douglas coming back for another field trip, the fourth graders. So we got some fun things planned for them. We do have an art show going on at Radcliffe in the community conference room now until June 6th. We do have Parents' Night Out Friday, June 6th. We already talked about the community paint event on June 6th. If you've got a child or grandchild in Dance Express, hopefully you have on your calendar June 11th and June 12th for the big recital. Always a fantastic show. I also put in here the GCYAA is hosting a color run event at Moeller Park on Saturday, June 14th from 3 to 6 p.m. So Parks will be there with a table, but there's lots of fun things like a food truck, you know, some games, and then, of course, the color run where you get a T-shirt and they throw color at you at some designated spots. So that's kind of a fun new event. We do have a Spaceport Gaming Camp running for 2 weeks, hoping people sign up for it. The first week is June 16th. I put in the park cleanup event at Manor Park on June 17th. We also, at Radcliffe, will have the Cops and Cones event on June 17th in the evening. The Moeller Park event on June 22nd. Then we have the regular summer camp the week of June 23rd to 26th. If you remember, we have 4 weeks of the summer camp, 2 weeks of the Spaceport camp. And then our next meeting in June is on Tuesday, June 24th, 4 weeks from tonight. So those are the highlights. If anybody's interested, I do have the June calendar, which is online, and it has links, but I have a paper copy if anyone's interested. But that's all I have.
Up and coming event programs, we're all good?
Yes.
Do you have anything tonight?
Anything for just discussion?
Yes, sir.
Comments?
Commissioners' comments?
Yes. Thank you for putting that together, Erica. I think we all agree that Parks and Rec, we want, you know, options for our residents, and our hands are kind of tied. Everybody's hands are kind of tied right now at Radcliffe, and trying to limit, I hope some of the contracts for these leasing members, I hope they're, you know, it's bringing in some revenue, and we can find useful rooms to do our things in. But yeah, no, thanks. I think, yeah, you put together a great presentation. That's it.
You're good?
Thank you, yeah.
I'm good for tonight. Kate?
I'm good.
I'm good too, but Eric, you did a great job.
Yes.
Presentation.
Dennis?
Nothing.
Crowd? Anybody? I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. 6-0.